Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and Wargaming are very kindly enabling the audience of Twitch streamers like me to be able to get one of 4 tier 6 premium tanks on their account on the EU, NA or Asia server. And in today's video I'm going to be letting you know exactly which one I would recommend you to pick, and if you're interested by any of the tanks that you see, how to collect the tokens and also access the store. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. So the first magnificent vehicle that is available inside the Twitch drop store will be the one, the only, it is the TOG 2 Star. This vehicle is as long as it is strong, and it is arguably the most healthy tank tier for tier in the game. With the durability device and the field mods, I am packing 1,770 hit points on this tank, which will give you all that you need to be able to outlast and out-tank your opponents. However, it doesn't have very good armor at all, and its mobility is awful even with a turbo, so it can struggle within that regard. But it actually has a really nice gun for tier 6. It's got the tier 7 Black Prince gun down at tier 6, and it also has preferential matchmaking, so you never have to meet any tier 8 tanks, only tier 7. And so this vehicle is great as well for the matchmaker because it enables tier 7 tanks to have really good matchmaking and not have to meet tier 8s. So all tier 7 tanks players rejoice for having more TOGs in the matchmaker. So, you might notice that I'm on my Plays for Free account. You might be wondering, how did you get a TOG Plays for Free? And it was exactly like this. I collected the TOG by picking up the monthly drops that I believe were from last year, collected all of my tokens, and I claimed myself a TOG. And so because I already have one on my Plays for Free account, and I will be collecting my own tokens, that's for sure, I will not have to pick this one, which is really cool. And this tank has actually been really fun to have on the Plays for Free account. Not only to just have something to blow off a little bit of steam, but also in the recent Battle Pass, the Terminator Battle Pass, having a tank like this to be able to accelerate your progress in the Battle Pass is very nice. Now, what do you mean, how does it accelerate your progress? Well, all of the tier 6 tanks have a hard limit on Battle Pass progress of 100 points. And once you reach that 100 point threshold, you actually get 15 bonus points and then you can no longer earn any more points in the tank. And so accordingly, tier 6 tanks were kind of earning 15% more than all of the other vehicles. And so I used this in conjunction with something like a Type 64 to actually accelerate my progress in a Battle Pass. Now, it's not so much of a big deal in the regular Battle Pass, which lasts 3 months. But if you do that in a Battle Pass, which is time-gated, like the Terminator Battle Pass or even in the TVP 100, it's actually a big advantage of just grinding tier 6 tanks, making sure you get the 100 points in them over the course of the event, and then you get that lovely 15 bonus at the end. Add to that the fact that the TOG 2 is actually a very competitive vehicle, especially when tier 7 heavy tanks decide that they want to try and ram a tank that weighs 80 tons, and yeah, you can make some real progress. That was possibly one of the most stupid rams I have seen in World of Tanks history, and I have done a lot of stupid ramming over the years. Why would you ram a TOG? This is like the heaviest tank at tier 6 at 80 tons. He did a whopping 263 to me, which is nothing when I've got this many hit points, and managed to take, I think it was like over 400 damage in return from ramming a TOG. I mean, it's not usually something that happens in a TOG, but I'll take it. And that's put my damage total up already to nearly 1,700. I really can't sing the praises of the TOG enough. I think I've managed to get some kind of special hot TOG style on this side as well. And talking about styles, if you like the hot TOG style, not the hot dog emblems that I have on this vehicle, then you can even get enough points in the next 3 months to not only get a TOG, but also to be able to get the hot TOG style and be able to turn your tank into a gigantic sausage, if that's your kind of thing. It's nice to at least have one gigantic sausage in your garage in World of Tanks, right? The TOG 2 is just one of those absolutely fantastic vehicles that I just have. It's just such a meme of a tank, and I really think that everyone deserves to own one. And let me tell you, the TOG, it's not just a meme, it's actually a very good vehicle as long as you play it to its strengths, and that is to realize, yo, I'm going to take damage, I'm going to get hit, and I'm just going to make sure that I deal the damage to my opponents. And when you've got this much pen, you've got 171 millimeters of pen at tier 6 on your standard rounds and 239 on your premium rounds, as long as you set this thing up correctly, which in my opinion is you have to use the durability device because you want to maximize the vehicle's already great hit points. You have to use a turbo, and then your choice after that is either going to be maybe some optics to be able to spot, or alternatively a gun rammer that will help you with your damage per minute, or get the vents, which will help everything else out about the vehicle. So I personally end up running durability vents turbo on this tank. That's my preferred way to be able to play the TOG, but I do understand people who want to drop the vents to improve the vehicle's fairly good damage per minute at 1,800. So all in all, the TOG 2, this is my most recommended tank out of the selection of 4 vehicles that you are going to be able to pick. But if it is too slow for you, then don't worry, we have got some more competitive, arguably, and faster vehicles to be able to have some fun with. But I don't know, man. I really don't think you can have much more fun in World of Tanks than loading some TOGs in. It's even more fun if you platoon. And these tanks, like in a platoon, can actually be really quite funky. I mean, if you were to have 3 of these tanks, what would that be? That'd be near enough 5,000 hit points amongst the 3 of you. 5,000 hit points is a lot. That's a lot. That's like pretty much a KV2 firing for pretty much most of the battle. I think you're easily going to be able to shred their 1,000 hit points before a KV2 is even going to get close of removing 1, if not even 2 of your TOGs from the battlefield. Weird situation here where auto-aiming is actually the correct thing to do, because you do notice that when I hit the pillar, for some reason the reticle kind of bucks up a little bit there. Bit of a bug, but the auto-aim was actually kind of getting the job done, or at least getting one hit on the KV-1S. So my other big tips for the TOG, for all of you out there who are brave enough to pick one up using the monthly drop store in February, March, and April, is to make sure that you always just keep going. Always just keep committing to the situation. The worst thing that a TOG can do is to hold back. You want to basically hold your W key all the way through like your heavy crunch tank engagements, and then you also want to use your hit points to be able to try and progress across the danger areas. If you stop in the TOG, you better be stopping to aim like we are against the KV-1S here. And sometimes even this tank is so slow and its gun handling isn't that bad. It's not great, but it's not that bad, with a fairly decent aim time of 2.3 seconds. That because you're never really that fast, you never really have to worry about your reticle fully blooming out. And so you could be fairly accurate on the move in a tank like this. Look, I'm not saying that you're going to have incredible gun handling performance, but it's not going to be bad, not by a long shot. And so all in all, the TOG, we're up to 3,000 damage dealt here and 500 assistance as we row our TOG gently through the enemy team. Although this AMX-1375 is finding out that with only 80 rounds, I think, left in their vehicle, I think they've run out of all else ammunition. The TOG isn't too gentle, especially to the French tanks. And just what a beaut. It's such a beautiful tank. You got to get yourself this one, ladies and gents, boys and girls. It's an absolute classic in World of Tanks. And to be able to give, undoubtedly, thousands, if not tens of thousands of these away over the next 3 months to the World of Tanks community, that makes me a very happy content creator. But maybe you don't like long and strong British heavy tanks with preferential matchmaking. Well, then maybe the first ever Polish tank inside the game, the Pudel, will be the one for you. This is basically the tier 6 German medium tank. I think it's the VK3002 or 3001M in the form of a premium vehicle. Now, all of these tanks that you see today actually make very good credits, which means that you can spam gold and either break even, or you can not spam gold at all and make decent amounts. Now, I'm actually backing off this fight here, and in retrospect, I kind of regret it. I wish I'd probably taken the fight up onto the hill there and tried to fight it out against the Panzer V4. Kind of scary that that tier 5 medium has so many hit points. Now, in this battle, I've decided to take vent, a gun rammer, and I'm actually using a durability device on this vehicle to try and keep myself in the game for a little bit longer. But I was kind of worried in that situation. If I blazed my way up onto the hill and I got caught by the P43, I wouldn't be long left into this game. And while I will push aggressively up on the hill most of the time on mines, just in that scenario, I didn't feel like risking it. Let's see if we can still manage to make it pay off by attacking along this eastern location and going after the T-34. So the Poodle has great damage per minute of 1,900 at tier 6, and you can see with the gun rammer and vents, you quickly pick apart your opponents. And with 150 alpha, it's got the same as the TOG, Actually, sorry, no, 135 alpha with 150 millimeters of penetration. Doesn't have quite as good alpha damage as the TOG, but with that increased amount of penetration compared to most tier 6 mediums, you will easily be able to deal even with heavy tanks like the Excelsior. 194 millimeters of penetration on your gold rounds means that you can fight back against premium tanks such as the Excelsior and the Churchill 3, who will undoubtedly be spamming gold at you. And those are tanks that you can't really mess around with too much. They've got competitive hit points, they've got competitive gold, as we can see here on the Churchill 3, and they've got very competitive damage per minute. And so this Churchill actually manages to remove a substantial amount of our HP. But we're up to 1,800 already in the first 2 minutes and 15 seconds of this game. Really showcasing that this tank, it can give it just as well as it can take it. And so the Poodle is just this like all-round medium tank. It's not going to do so well in your bad matchups where its armor really is going to be negligible. But if you can catch your opponents, it doesn't matter what tier they are. Like, nobody wants to get hit by a Poodle with this amount of damage per minute and also this amount of penetration. Very weird fire there. We're actually able to go through the Cromwell even though he's angling his lower plate like that. I wonder if that's an overmatch on the lower plate, or alternatively if he just wasn't as well angled as we thought he was. Alright, so in this scenario, my team is down by 1,000 hit points and down by a couple of frags. Yeah, in retrospect, I wish I had actually just pushed up on top of the hill and just taken the risk at the beginning of the game. While it would be a dangerous play and it wouldn't allow me to possibly have the more consistent result, I just feel like giving up the top of the hill has put so much pressure on my tank destroyers, especially at the back of the map, that it is a little bit awkward. Alright, so talking about awkward, we are in a tough scenario here with multiple British tanks pushing forwards. Luckily for us, it looks like the Cromwell is now down to a one-shot, but I've really got to try and deal with these tanks and try and push on if I want to be able to win this game. Sitting back really isn't going to help. Now, I changed from regular rounds to a gold round here because I wasn't quite sure what I was going to be engaging next, whether it was the Excelsior or maybe even just the Hetzer. And the Hetzer's got some pretty darn impressive armor, and when I'm down to a one-shot, I can't really afford any kind of ricochets. But as I said, these are full premium tanks. These are not reward tanks that you're going to be able to get from the monthly drop store, which means that, yeah, the credit income as well as the extra crew training is going to be pretty sweet. Not nearly as good as if they were tier 7 or tier 8 premiums, but, you know, that would be a good one the day that Wargaming allow me to give away 10,000 or tens of thousands of tier 8 premiums. Yeah, that'll be the day. Alright, so 3 kills now, 2,884 damage, and this game was starting to look a little bit more close. Well, at least until I opened up my big mouth and the Stug shuts down the T14 on my team. Now it's myself, a Hummel, and a T25 TP. So in this scenario, I didn't want to hang around and get shot by the A25 Harry Hopkins, and I decided that I wanted to try and make a flanking play and hopefully catch out this T28 to secure one of the flanks before I duck around again. Unfortunately, my friends fall. The Stug says my bad, but I really feel like it was probably my bad in this situation. Mr. Stug, I should have taken the hill at the beginning of the game and stopped that Panzer V4 from dominating it. And I was just very disappointed here. Obviously, this is because I'm not taking coated optics on the tank right now, and I don't quite manage to spot out that T28 for a very long time. And so we get caught by the Panzer V4, who we kind of like cowardly didn't fight at the beginning of the game. And so I feel like I deserved to lose this. I should have fought for the hill. I was a top tier tank, and irrelevant of it being a Panzer V4. I had more hit points, comparable DPM, and I should have gone at them at the beginning of the game and taken the risk to set that tempo, to set that precedence, and to hopefully then try and turn into my team's favor. Nevertheless, 4 kills and 3,000 damage. Again, good performances so far for our tier 6 mediums. Okay, so let's say you don't want the long, strong British tank, and you don't want the competitive Polish medium, like pseudo-German Polish tank. What's next? So maybe a French premium medium tank is more your cup of tea, or probably more cup of coffee, as the case may be, right? The M4A1 F10 is an auto-loading medium that kind of looks like a Revelarice with an AMX turret, and that's probably exactly what it is. It's an M4A1 with an FL10 turret that I guess you're going to be used to on something like an EBR. Now, you probably take, I'd say, the worst aspect of a Sherman and combine it with the worst aspect of an EBR at tier 8 and wedge them together and create this Frankenstein monster. However, The vehicle, it's not that bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. Let me talk about the strengths of it. Firstly, it has a 4-round 75mm gun, which has 135 alpha, like you had on the Poodle, but a 1.75 intra-clip reload, which means that you can deliver 540 damage, not a small amount by any margin at tier 6, in a 5.25 second magazine after the first shot. So that means that the M4A1 F10 can actually be quite voracious for when it comes to dealing damage. So look at this! All of those rounds in against that Skoda T25. We even had a couple of rounds earlier to be able to knock down the building to try and set up for if any of the tanks in the middle do manage to get caught out pushing a little bit too far forwards. The only downside to this tank, really, is that its accuracy at 0.38, it's definitely not a sniping tank. And also that I'd say that for a complete pay-to-win player who has their Cromwell Berlin set up with a gun rammer, vents, premium consumable, and a good crew, that you can kind of get the Cromwell's reload down to 3 seconds anyway, and it's got the same alpha damage as this. And while 3 seconds is not nearly as good as 1.75 intra-clip reload, like you have on the M4A1 FL10, it doesn't have to have that awkward magazine reload afterwards, which is 18 seconds. And so this tank, it ends up feeling quite frustrating for me when I can only fire 1 or 2 shells. However, if I manage to dump out an entire magazine, sure, this tank's good. But if it's only 1 or 2 shells, I think I'd do better in a Cromwell, which kind of has more gun depression. This thing's only got 6, has better camo rating because this thing is a big old chunky tank, and just doesn't have to have that awkward reload afterwards. And you'll see that even though I managed to get like 2 shots in and I get a T28 taken out, I have to pay for it. I have to pay for it really badly, with the Skoda T25 removing another 220 of my hit points. And that seems to happen quite a lot in a big old chunky tank like this. It kind of feels a bit like a Revelarise in a way, just a Revelarise that doesn't have the luxury of only firing 1 shot. It has to fire multiple shells at its opponents. Equipment-wise on a tank like this, I'd probably recommend to go for something like vents, vertical stabilizers, and coated optics. Or maybe this thing can't use vert stabs. If it can't use vert stabs, maybe you could go for a rotation device in this for this tank instead. Alternatively, you could probably go and drop the rotation device or the vertical stabilizers to try and pump up the tank's speed with a turbo, but that will start to make your gun performance after firing a little bit poor. And it doesn't have the biggest bloom after firing of 3, but it's definitely not good within that regards. So this tank for me is going to get my 3rd place recommendation. I think you'll do far better and have far more fun in the TOG, and I think that you will do better in a Poodle all in all. But then again, I don't know what kind of crews you all play and what kind of play styles you all want to have. And so for those of you out there who really want to train up maybe some of your French medium crew, remember that you can take any tech tree crew and whack them in one of these premiums and use it for some advanced crew training. And this tank you could use, as I said, just like with the TOG, in some of Wargaming's Battle Pass events to be able to get a quick amount of points. As I said, you can get 100 Battle Pass points in this thing, and then once you've got 100 Battle Pass points, you won't be able to get any more from the vehicle, but you'll be able to get those 15 bonus points, which can actually allow you to accelerate your progress. And it's how I managed to complete the Terminator Battle Pass across multiple accounts, whereas people thought it was a little bit tricky to do on one. Although, look, this is my full-time occupation. I do play like a sweaty nerd, so that also helps as well. I'm not saying that if you get these tier 6 premiums that suddenly you're going to be able to do it on multiple accounts. Look, you can't, but it definitely can help. And yeah, tier 6, especially during those events, it does feel like an absolute nightmare with a lot of very good players dropping down to tier 6 and also playing as well. But once you get used to it, if you can remain competitive, it definitely is the fastest way to be able to get through the Battle Pass. Alright, so far a close run game on Prokhorovka. We're up to 1,400 damage, and honestly, in the gameplay, I felt like I was up to more damage than this. I'm not going to lie. And that's because this thing, while its autoloader can be nice, I just don't ever really get the opportunities to truly unleash its autoloading capacity. I think it's its poor gun depression with its average view range of 370 meters, although that's not bad at tier 6, not bad by a long shot. And with a good crew, You can even kind of get away with dropping coated optics on a vehicle like this. You're not going to get a huge amount of view range, but your view range won't be bad. But I think it's just that even if you put just 1 or 2 shots in, and then you have kind of like that 18-second reload on this tank, it is very substantial. And it's not like other autoloaders. I'm looking at you, Skoda T25 on the enemy team that can burst out 330 damage, I believe in like 2 or 3 seconds of the first shot, and then have a quicker reload. Although Wargaming have nerfed the Skoda T25 recently, but they haven't nerfed the M4A1 F10. And this is a premium tank. It sounds weird to say that, oh, the tech tree tank is kind of better, and yeah, it is. But at least this one, you will be making those extra credits, and you will be making that extra crew training. Okay, so in this situation, it's just about trying to get forwards, but considering I'm down to 99 hit points, I got so few left that I'm a one-shot for the Skoda T25, and so if they do manage to catch me, yeah, it's not going to be good news. So I feel like just setting up shop, just taking my time, trying to get these tanks spotted. But now that I see that the Skoda T25 has dropped back and also manages to finish off my Su-85, that means that I can get forwards. There's a T-34 towards my right, but he's on the other side of the ridge, so I can't really manage to get any shots on him, as I confirmed there, momentarily stopping. And now it's just about going up over this ridge line against the Tier 6 Czechoslovakian autoloader and seeing if we can manage to finish them off. All right, so we're both a 50-50 to be able to kill each other. But hopefully my shot is not going to low roll. I kind of want to get in with this Poodle, but considering I get hit by the T-34 there, luckily misses the second shot. It's not too bad. Hit the ridgeline, not great. Hopefully I can manage to hit the Skoda, and I do manage to hit them, but I low roll, and they manage to finish me off with the extra shot. Still, it's going to be a win here. 1,700 damage and 778 assistance. It's not a great game for this tank. It's not the worst game I've ever had for this tank. This one, I really wouldn't recommend for everyone, but if you are a good player or you've got an exceptionally good French premium, well, a French medium tank crew, doesn't have to be a premium medium tank crew, then this one might work out for you. But for me, it just feels a little bit frustrating. The autoloader doesn't really feel like an autoloader, and it just feels a little bit too cumbersome. I think we're definitely going left, Mr. QuickyBaby. No, even though I'm pointing my turret towards the right. Ah, there we go. Changes have been made. So, if you don't like any of those first 3 premium tanks, it's really nice of Wargaming to give 4 choices. This one is the Firefly VC. The Firefly, famous for having, I think it was a British 17-pounder on top of a Sherman hull that was able to have a good chance of going through a Tiger at a very decent distance. The Firefly VC inside World of Tanks is a 76mm caliber gun, 171mm of pen, and 239mm of gold pen. So this is the tank for you, for all of you players who love to have more than enough penetration to be able to deal with your opponents. And also, the Firefly VC actually has really good damage per minute as well, as you can see with that rate of fire. This thing kind of just has a Cromwell's gun, but just pumped up a notch. It's got higher alpha at 150, higher standard pen, and its premium pen is more than enough to make even tier 8 tanks wins inside a nice matchup. And so when I'm engaging against this Cromwell Berlin, you'll see that I'm quite happy to trade with them. They'll do 270 average damage to me, and I'll do 300 to them. And whenever I literally have a better gun than my opponents, I'm not going to back away from the scenario. Now we're fighting against one of the most dangerous tier 6 tanks you're ever going to meet, the 88. And because I know how good its armor is, I'm going to compensate by loading some gold rounds here and trying to go after him. And with this kind of, should we say, tier 8 premium penetration right now, you would have some tier 8 premium medium tanks don't have this much penetration. Now we can easily go through the 88, as long as we don't aim like an idiot. So unfortunately for me, this 88 really wanted to go after the Sherman Firefly. And even worse, the Skoda T25 actually manages to yoink the kill. So we're actually down to 168 hit points early on in the battle. But we've been dealing damage to these rather brutal tier 6 tanks. People think of the Cromwell Berlin and think of the 88 as some of the most dangerous tier 6 tanks at their tier. And this vehicle, it goes toe to toe with everything. Now it's not going to have the hit points to be able to survive, and it definitely doesn't have the gun depression if you're used to kind of working a ridge line. But for kind of like situations where you just want to shoot whatever's in front of you, or alternatively when you don't get on a terrible map like Paris and you actually get to engage at decent distances, the Sherman Firefly can actually be quite terrifying. My preferred way to be able to set this thing up will be with vent and a gun rammer. That's definitely going to maximize your firepower. And then you're going to want to whack coated optics on this tank as well. But for close quarters situations, maybe you can drop coated optics and either use a durability device or maybe a turbo to be able to actually try and get around and contest your opponents, because the vehicle is not all that fast. Nevertheless, despite all of the strengths of the Firefly, I think that this tank will probably get my least recommendation out of the 4. I think the TOG is just this big old fun box of tricks that everyone should have inside World of Tanks, and it's not even just a meme, it's competitive itself. I think the Poodle is a competitive tank, and I think the only downside to the Poodle is that some people don't want to train up a Polish medium crew, and some people have already got like a Britannia Panther, or they've got like the Tech Tree tank, which it is pretty much just a copy of, and so it doesn't feel very special from that regard. Then the M4A1 F10, well, it's an autoloader, so it's kind of special for tier 6, but if you've got yourself the tier 6 Stridsvagn, that is actually a better autoloading medium tank, at least in my opinion. And then you got the Firefly, which kind of is statistically strong in some areas, but all in all, it's not really the one that I would recommend. I just think that it's got not enough gun depression, it's not fast enough, it has a big old hull with not enough armor, and honestly I think you do better with a Cromwell Berlin for having fun inside World of Tanks. But if you've already got all those tanks, and you're a tank collector, and you want to have something very different that's a rather an unusual beast to see on the battlefield, then look no further than the Firefly. And hopefully, we're going to be able to go after this A20. They ricochet off us. We're going to be able to finish them off. And now, hopefully, get into position to be able to go after this Wolverine as well. This should be easy. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Don't do it to me. Why, is there a Panzer IV behind me? Okay, let's just sit still and see if we can go after them. Come on, buddy. I got you. I got you. I got you. I got you. Got one into you. Hopefully, I just sit here and land the shell. Oh, no. Ridgeline absorbs it.
Is it too late to blame the team?
Blame the tank, QuickyBabs. That's even better. Anyway, 2,000 combined. It's not a bad result for this tank. But if you do end up getting yourself the Firefly VC, get it at a decent distance and you will be surprised at how quickly the damage in this tank can add up, even without the need for spamming gold, or if you do, you're definitely overcompensating with that near 240mm of APCR pen. So if one of these 4 tier 6 premium tanks caught your fancy and you want to be able to get to pick one up over the next 3 months, then I'll let you know how to get your hands on it. Firstly, you can access the Twitch drop store by going through into your depot, clicking the Homefront supplies option, and then going to the token store option. Here you will see all of the different tanks that are available, credits, garage slots, 5x experience mission, or even some days of premium account. Now, to be able to earn these tokens, I'll link through to Wargaming's guide on their official website. But the gist of it is every Monday and every Friday for February, April, and May, there will be new drops available on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby, where after watching for each hour, you will be able to get yourself 1 token and also unlock special missions that you will have inside the game to be able to get yourself some additional tokens. And while it will require a lot of viewing, maybe some of you out there who are already watching my Tech Tree showcases anyway, you can make sure you link up your Twitch account to your World of Tanks account and then claim your drops as you go along by going into your profile, going to the drop section and making sure you're claiming them. And as you see this video going live today, there will be Steel Hunter drops in addition to the monthly drops available, so you can get yourself a Shield of Honor, TUD style, just for watching today. So I'd like to give a massive thank you to Wargaming for enabling creators such as myself to be able to give away full premium prizes to their audience, albeit over a long period of time. And if any of you want to start your quest to be able to get yourself a TOG amongst the other vehicles, then feel free to tune in today on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby, where I'm sure that someone in the chat will help you out if it's your first time. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that's it for today. Really hope this video was useful for you. If it was, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments, which vehicle out of the 4 would you pick and why? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic and hopefully I'll see you soon.